everyone, my name's Annette and welcome to Cotto Verde. Today I am going to be pruning my David Austin James Galway climbing roses that are on the wall behind me. This is a north facing wall and they bloom beautifully for me. We're probably in our 5th or 6th year now and I've been training them over the years so that they grow more horizontally in order to get more blooms. And I'm going to show you how to do this today so that you can have fabulous blooming roses on your walls or trellises too. You don't need very much to prune a rose. You need a good, clean, sharp pair of secateurs, and if you're cutting more than one rose, you should probably clean them with some, alcohol or something in between, just to prevent disease spreading. And these are my Felco 2s and I love them, and I will put a link in the description below in case you want to have a look. And I'm also using my Bergen & Ball gloves. I love these gloves. They're super comfy and flexible. This isn't an advert, by the way. I'm just putting an affiliate link below in case you're interested, but I just really love the pattern on these. They come in all sorts of different patterns, and again I'll put a link below, but they've got really nice sort of padding on the inside and I find them just really comfortable and easy to get on and off, and yeah, they suit me. So that's what I'm using today. You need a bucket to put your rubbish in and probably need a ladder. I'll probably need a ladder. I might get Richard involved because I'm not particularly fond of climbing ladders. When you're pruning a climbing rose, what you want to do is create a framework that is more horizontal than vertical, because if your stems go horizontally, the little nodes on those stems will turn into little shoots that will produce blooms. The more vertical your plant is, the less likely it is that those nodes will wake up and produce the shoots that will produce the blooms. So you'll end up with lots of blooms at the top rather than having blooms all the way along the stems. And I'll show you close-ups so you can see what I'm doing. But you'll see in the roses behind me that a lot of the stems are horizontal, and that's how we managed to create so many beautiful blooms coming off them. I tend to prune my roses in March. A lot of people will prune them a little bit earlier in February, but really it's up to you when you prune them. You will see that these roses have started to wake up already. So for me, it really is time to prune them now. I don't want them to wake up too much and spend too much time putting lots of energy into producing new shoots if I'm just going to chop them off anyway. So I want to get cracking with it. So the first thing I'm going to look for when I'm pruning the rose is I'm going to check the overall structure and just decide how many of the main stems I'm going to keep. And when I'm talking about main stems, I'm talking about the thicker stems that have already got branches coming off them. But what you also need to look for is anything that is diseased, damaged, or dead. So you'll know it's dead if it's very brittle, so when you bend it, it'll snap right off. Also, they tend to be like a grey colour or very, very brown, but do be careful because some of the old stems will look brown too. And you'll be able to see if it's diseased because it will be mottled or soggy or something. And if it's snapped already, it's damaged and you should probably take that off. Now, when you're pruning roses, it's important to prune down to a bud, so down to a node or where a leaf is coming off the stem, because that is where a new shoot will form. And you don't want lots of those little bits of twigs sticking up that just die back, because the rose will die back to where that node is anyway. So you want to prevent the rose doing that by always cutting off to above a node or a leaf. And I'll show you a close-up of what I'm doing there as well. So you can see that there's lots of lovely new growth already, and a lot of that is going to come off, unfortunately. So when I'm saying that you need to cut it to where a leaf or a node is, that's a leaf, so you would cut it right above that there, or this is a node here. Let me focus that, and you would cut it right above that. So this is the end of the branch, and you cut it right above. So if you have your branches horizontally like this one, you can see all the little nodes are breaking dormancy and creating shoots, and this is where all the flowers are going to come from, all these little branches here. Whereas if you have a horizontal stem like this one here that goes all the way up here, they don't really wake up so well. They're kind of asleep. But the moment you lean your branches over, they all start shooting. So we've got a wire trellis on this wall here, and that's what we tie our roses into, and I use ordinary garden twine to do this. I've done a video about how we put the wire trellis up, and I can put a link to that below, but it's pretty easy to find on my channel. But the wire trellis has got turnbuckles, so I will also check that the wires are very taut or taut enough by turning and twisting the turnbuckles to make the wire tighter, and I do this every year. So if the roses go behind the wire, what happens is it starts damaging. Can you see that it's damaging the stem? So what we're going to do is we're going to unhook the turnbuckle to release all the ones that are stuck behind, and that way they won't rub against the wire. And that's why having a turnbuckle is hugely advantageous, and that's why we use them, because not only can you easily tighten the wires every year, but you can sort out problems like that quite easily too. And the other thing we're going to do is take off all these spindly growths. So what you want to do is you want to give the rose a really solid, strong framework to produce blooms. And if you keep lots of the really thin, twiggy growth, that won't really support the flower heads particularly well. So you want to take that off probably. And again, I'll show you what I'm doing when I do that. So I'm just going to get on with pruning it, and I'll explain what I'm doing as I go. If you've got any questions, then put them in the comments below and I will get back to you. And hopefully this is going to help you prune your climbing roses. So I've got a lot of nodes that are breaking dormancy along this horizontal branch here. But here at the end, these are really weak growths, and I want to chop these off, and I'm going to take it right back to just above where a node is. And you can see that I tied this in here over the winter. So in sort of November time, we come around and tie everything in really well so that nothing gets damaged during the winter storms. But I do need to actually tie it in again, probably. It's not tied in particularly tightly enough. But I'm going to also take this one off here, and I'm going to take that right back actually to the stem, because I don't want that to do anything. And then I'm going to just tidy up the end here. So I've just tidied that branch up there, and that will invigorate all these nodes to start shooting upwards and creating some lovely new growth. Oh, I wasn't even in the screen. And then this one, which we tied in to prevent it breaking during the winter storms, I can actually see that this is waking up here. But what I would rather do, so what I'm looking for is a gap here in my pattern of horizontal branches, and there's a gap here, so I could put a branch in between these two branches here, but I've got a lot of weak growth from last year, so this is a very spindly stem that I don't want, so I'm taking that off. And then what I'd like to do, you see, is to bend this one, or encourage this one of the nodes to branch that way, and I think it's this node here. So this horizontal branch here, I want it to break dormancy and grow between these two. So I'm going to get rid of all this spindly growth behind these bits, and I'm going to get one of the nodes on here to wake up, and I think I'm probably going to go for this one. Looks quite healthy. I'm going to cut above that. I want to cut above it. So there's the node there, and I'm going to cut above it. And by doing that, this node will wake up, and then during the summer I can tie it in between this horizontal branch and this one. So I'm going to take the whole of that off, and then I'm going to take off all of this because I don't want it I'm going to take it back to there. I'm going to take this one off completely because it's growing behind. In fact, that doesn't look healthy, and that's just going to cross. And then this one's tied in, so I need to lop it off the wire. And there's a node here, but it's pointing in this direction. I don't want anything to grow this way, so I'm going to take it right back down to there. What I've got now is I've got a stem that I will tighten this up so it's closer to the wall. This will hopefully grow along here. Well, it will grow along there. I'm going to, I think I'll leave that. I'm actually not sure about this one because this now is going to grow in this direction, and I'm not particularly happy with that. So I'm going to take it down to here and wake up the little node that's here. So this is basically what I'm doing. Hopefully you can see the method. So I'm going to tidy up all of these long bits that are sticking out because they're just going to come out this way, and it grows really fast, so it'll just start falling over. So what I'm going to do is tie this one back in a bit further to the wire to encourage it to come this way. I haven't worn my gloves and now I'm bleeding. And then I need to get some garden twine because I want to tie this in to here. I want to take that right back. So I haven't quite finished, but you can see that it's completely cleaned up. I've got none of last year's leaves on there. There are no dead or damaged or diseased twigs. In fact, there wasn't anything dead that I needed to take off, and nothing damaged. I do have a tiny bit of crossing over here. I don't know if you can see that. So these branches here are crossing this main branch here, and I'm going to leave it like that for this year unless this wakes up, this node down here, and there is one here, and if those start growing more then I can take these off next year, but hopefully they are not going to rub too much. I will tie them in so that they don't. The other thing that's happened that's quite unfortunate is that some of the branches are behind the wires, and that's because we didn't get to them. Bleeding. We didn't get to them in time to pull them out from behind the wires, and it is better if they're this side of the wires so that they don't push on the wires. And then the last thing I'm going to do once I've got Richard, what we've got is some top growth up here that I need to get Richard to jump on the ladder and I'm just going to ask him to prune that. And sorry, planes have started already because it's March. Everyone wants to fly over the beautiful Chilterns. So yes, what I'm going to do is get Richard to help me prune the ones up there with his trusty ladder, and we'll cut those back and tidy them up, and then I'm going to give the rows a feed. So I always feed when I'm pruning, and what I use is fish, blood and bone. I'll link that below as well in case you're interested to know what I'm using, but we just sort of mix that into the soil and then give it a good water, and it will feed the plant for a few weeks, and then in a month's time we'll feed the roses again. Certainly when they stop blooming we'll feed them again. Now you've probably noticed that our roses out here aren't in proper beds. It's sort of a makeshift bed that we created with some bricks. They're not concreted in or anything, but we put a whole bunch of soil in there, and that's because our driveway isn't finished. So we're still waiting for our driveway to be finished. And once it is, we'll have proper beds made here with some cobbles. But at the moment, this is working fine. You know, we dug down really well, so there's really good soil below there, and we keep mulching it every year, and this works absolutely fine. The roses are really happy here. We have fantastic blooms all summer. I love these roses. This is the garden twine that I use to tie up the roses. It's, you know, nothing special. It really is just garden twine, and I find that that's best. It's not too permanent, it's biodegradable, and, you know, it's just jute twine. And I prefer that to any of the fancy ties. I find it really easy. It means I can tie a bow and undo it really easily as well. So that's what I like to use. So I'm just going to get Richard to prune the upper branches now. So I just want to show you that when we tie the roses in, we do a figure of 8. And this little buffer here prevents the roses from being tied in too tight to the wire and causing it to rub on the wire. And it just acts as like a little buffer. So always do a figure of 8. Okay, so that's one done, and I'm going to start on the second one behind me here. Exactly the same principles. I'm going to check for anything diseased, damaged or dead, and then I'm going to look at the overall structure and just try and create as much horizontal growth as I possibly can. Take out all the spindly stems that aren't going to hold up lots of blooms. So what I do sometimes if I don't have a wire available is I will tie one of the branches. If I want to train it in a particular direction, I'll just tie it to another branch. So that's kind of what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to pull it down gently to there. So I've sort of angled it so that it's in between these two branches. So I'm just tying this in here so that it's not covering the window, because it's really a pain when they cover the window, then you can't open the window in the summer. So this one is finished. I've been waiting years to get it to grow across this door, because this was the old front door and it's no longer our front door. And so I want it to actually grow over the front door so that the postman doesn't leave parcels outside it, because we do quite often find a parcel on this step. I mean, it clearly isn't a used door, but anyway. So this is our third and most prolific rose. It probably gets a little bit more sun than the others, but not much. But for some reason, it's the happiest. And again, we're training it across a door that's no longer in use. But I just want it to sort of spread out as much as it can, and it's doing a really good job with that. So this is a good example of where branches are going to rub against each other, and so I'm going to take out the weaker branch, which is this one here, and I'm going to take it all the way back to this bud here, like that, and I'm going to take off this pathetic thing here. And then in situations like this, you're possibly wondering why I left such a big stem when I've said that I don't, but it's because this bud is forming here, and I want the branch to come in this direction, and I didn't want it to come in this direction here. So there's one here. I could take it to the little bud that's pointing upwards. In fact, I might just do that. So there's a bud, oh dear, there, pointing upwards, and I'm going to take it off to just above that. It's really hard to do while I'm filming. And then this will shoot in this direction, upwards. This one here, this stem is behind the wire, and so I'm going to take it all the way off down to this bud here. That's a shoot, that's a node that's going to wake up if I chop it back to there. So you can see that I've got a good distance between all of these. They're mostly going horizontally. I can't reach those, so we'll get Richard to do that bit. soon as we finish pruning the roses, what I do is I give them a feed of fish blood and bone, and I'm going to do that now. And we sort of scatter it around the root ball and then rub it into the compost and give them a good water, and then that will feed them for a month or so. And then as soon as they start flushing out and blooming properly, then we'll give them another feed, and we just feed them consistently throughout the summer, in fact throughout their growing period. And then we will give the bed a little mulch as well. So apart from a little bit of clearing up that we need to do and the rest of the mulching, that's it for today. We finished pruning the roses. I really hope that I've been able to explain how we prune our roses and how we get so many blooms out of these gorgeous David Austin James Galway. I really do highly recommend them. I think they're absolutely fabulous. I love the structure of the petals. I love the colour of them, and I think they just grow really well on a north-facing wall. So highly recommend. This isn't an advert or anything. I just think it's really hard when people have north-facing walls and they don't know what to plant, and I was really stumped, but this is what I was advised by David Austin would work well, and it really has. I just gave them a call and asked them what they recommended because I really wanted roses on the front of the house. Anyway, that's it for today. I really hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, please do give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see how these roses look in the summer, because I will definitely be posting videos as soon as they start blooming. And obviously, you know, throughout the season we'll have to care for them and do a bit of tying in, and I'll video that too if you want to see how we do that. So if you want to know more about the roses and how I care for my roses, I file everything on my channel under a playlist called Roses, and you can find it there if you're interested. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Anything that is the 3 Ds, so diseased, damaged, or dead. I'm bleeding.